had enough, Ancelotti. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Gab and Juls scores the only goal as Bologna beat Milan 1-0 in the Coppa Italia final to win their first trophy in 51 years, which is a really, really, really long drought for a club that have been Serie A champions 7 times.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, great achievement this season, what they've done. And Vincenzo Italiano to still be in the race for top 4, to have played in the Champions League, to have started the season so slowly like they did, and now to win this Coppa Italia for the third time in their history. It's 1974, the last time, so 51 years ago. It's a long time. Credit to Italiano, of course, to the players, especially after the departure of Motta, Zirkzee, Calafiori, Giovanni Sartori, of course, building these squads and doing really well.
Yeah, I think it's like they had a lot of false starts under Joey Saputo since he took over, but I think that team of Di Vaio, Finucci, who came in, they've done a really, really good job. And as you mentioned, Calafiori and Zirkzee were super important for them.
Yeah.
Lewis Ferguson, of course, missing the whole season, then coming back, played in this game. A massive whack in the head while fouling Rafael Leao. Nerds out there will point out that they actually won the Intertoto in 1998.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I think it's fair to say this feels a little different.
Yeah.
That's a big deal for the city of Bologna, too, because Bologna as a city is a city. It's about basketball. It's not about football, certainly over the last 50 odd years. And to have rediscovered this, it's tremendous achievement.
And Gab, Milan CEO Giorgio Forlani was pretty clear after the game, saying loads of mistakes were made and the season is a failure. What comes next?
So this is great. This is the right messaging to say afterwards. Not hide, right? Because before the game, there were a lot of people saying, oh, but look, if Milan win the Coppa Italia, and they played Bologna in the league, beat them 3-1 the previous weekend, then they won 2 trophies. 2 trophies in 4 months. And no, nonsense. Every Milan fan, every sentient being, I think, would see right through that and say that it's nonsense. So they have a lot of things to figure out. Sergio Conceição is going to go. They do not have a director of football in place.
Yeah.
That trail's kind of gone cold a little bit. Iglitare was there, but he's like, no, I'm just here to watch the game, which I believe him. The dude lives in Rome. He probably gets free tickets to the Coppa Italia final. Why not?
Yeah.
And they have to figure out the direction. There's some players who could leave. I think they have a very good squad, and they made some big mistakes, and there's some glaring holes that I don't want to repeat. I think this gentleman behind us, Theo Hernandez, will also go if they can find a taker, and he's got a contractual issue as well. But yeah, I don't think you're starting from a low point. You've got talent there, and you're not that far removed from the top 4.
Tottenham are getting a new CEO, Vinay Venkatesham, who was previously at Arsenal, of course, and they could be getting a new sporting director too, who is actually their old sporting director, Gab.
Yeah, Vinay kind of pulling a Sol Campbell in reverse there. How about that?
Absolutely.
I wonder, do people boo CEOs when they come back?
I don't know, will he appear at the Emirates?
Yeah, so the situation with Fabio Paratici, of course, he was banned for his role in the Busvalenza scandal at Juventus. His ban is coming to an end. These bans for club officials are kind of nonsense in the sense that he's banned from being in the stadium, banned from putting his name on certain deals. He's not actually banned from consulting. A lot of people think that he probably continued to consult.
Yeah.
Like if Daniel Levy rang him up, he wouldn't say no. He's been linked to other jobs. I think if Levy's happy with the job he's done so far, there's no reason he can't continue. The question is, should you be happy with the job that they've done so far? Huge overhauls coming in Ligue 1, Jules. Looks like they're considering everything from playoffs to a new governance structure to bringing back the League Cup for teams not playing in Europe.
Yeah, and don't forget launching their own channels to broadcast their games and things like that. So it's a huge summer. They're thinking about playoffs for winning the league, like we see in France for the women's game. They will copy the format of the Premier League here and how it's run and how it's governed. And you're right, they're thinking about the League Cup for the teams who are not in Europe for an extra competition and something that maybe teams that don't usually win it have more chances because you won't have PSG, you won't have Marseille or Lyon or Monaco and that kind of stuff. So it'll be very, very interesting summer.
Do you like this?
The playoff I'm not too keen on, I won't lie. The new government's body and structure, I think that something has to change anyway, but it's one thing to say we want to copy the Premier League, and it's another thing to do a decent job, because there's a reason why the Premier League is so successful, and there's nothing we can do similar in France. The League Cup, yeah. I don't really have too much opinion on the League Cup, to be fair. But yeah, why not?
I don't like the League Cup here, as you know.
Yeah.
But if it's for teams that aren't involved and they want to play more games, go knock yourself out.
Yeah.
The playoffs, I think, is interesting. Obviously, we have them in Belgium, we have them in Greece. It can be exciting. It's a tough sell, though, when you have one team that finishes the regular season like 30 points ahead, and now you put them in jeopardy again in the playoffs.
Yeah. This was way back on Monday night, Gab. Atalanta beat Roma 2-1 to secure their place in the Champions League next season. And who is getting fourth then now in Serie A?
Huge win for Atalanta, of course, 2-1. Roma had a penalty appeal with Manu Konen, and kind of saw the VAR, and they're like, all right, this is a bit of a dive here, son. It's tight. Juventus and Lazio both on 64 points. Juventus have Udinese at home and Venezia away, who probably won't be safe by that point. Lazio have Inter away, which is obviously going to be very tough. That could knock them out. And Lecce at home, who also likely fighting to avoid relegation. Roma have Milan at home and Torino away. This is huge, because if they beat Milan, they go to 66 points, and then they're in a really strong position.
Yeah.
Bologna 62, Fiorentina away, and Genoa at home. I think those are both winnable games, so they're not out of it. Even Milan, technically, Roma at home and Monza away. You beat Roma, Monza at home should be a gimme. Who knows? You could end up at 66. I mean, my money is still on Juve. Needs must. But man, it's going to be tight. It's going to be exciting.
Gab, it's Thursday, and we know you love your Premier League, Champions League qualifying percentage game. So go on. Who do you think is going to make it this week?
Well, I do love them.
Yeah.
And after Arsenal's draw, they're not mathematically qualified. I thought they were. I mean, I would give Arsenal 99.999,
Okay.
but I can only give them 99 because we have to round down on these. It's a Gab policy. So I look at this, and they have Newcastle at home and Southampton away. And then all of a sudden, like, Newcastle, big win last week.
Yeah.
Southampton away, big draw last week. So I'm sorry, Arsenal, I can only give you 99%. I'm going to give Newcastle 95%. Arsenal away, they could easily lose that, but they're on 66 points. That's pretty good. And Everton at home, I think Everton are going to be on the beach on the last day of the season. Aren't you? Wouldn't you be if you were Everton?
I am already.
City, I've only given 80%. The reason is they're on 65 points, so they can be passed. Chelsea and Villa are both 63, so City could theoretically fall beneath them.
Yeah.
Bournemouth at home, that Iraola is sneaky, isn't he? And you never know what you're going to get with Bournemouth. And Fulham away, they might open the stand with an infinity lap pool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Marco Silva is one of the more handsome managers in the Premier League. So I don't think it's done at all. So I'm only giving them 80%. I've got Chelsea in 63. They've got United at home this weekend. We presume, or even on Friday night. I am going to that game.
Friday night.
We presume that's a Chelsea win, right? So you're almost there. But then it's Forest away, and anything can happen because that could still be a head-to-head. Villa, they're even better. They're playing the Europa League finalists. Spurs at home and United away. There's nothing to say they won't run the table. The problem is 69 points. I don't know that's enough to get you in. That's why I've only given them 25% chance. Forest, sorry, but you screwed the pooch with that late draw. You can thank Mr. Facundo Buonanotte. West Ham away, and then Chelsea at home. Even if you win that, Forest could only get as high as 68. I don't think that's going to be enough to qualify as one of the top five. Sean Dyche talked about Ruben Amorim and said he reckons that if he went there and played 4-4-2 and just gave United players, quote, basic rules and principle.
Oh my God.
They would win more games. Is he right, Jules?
Do you really want me to go there and talk about Sean Dyche? What do you usually say? You know, with some ifs. My auntie would.
Oh yes.
What was your expression?
If my aunt had wheels, she'd be a bicycle.
Exactly. Well, that's for you, Sean. 4-4-2 and basic rules in principle and principles is not the way forward. Trust me.
I see where he's coming from, but
But that's so disrespectful to Amorim as well. It's embarrassing.
It's hugely, but also it's disrespectful to Dyche himself, because the point is they're not trying to just win some games. They're trying to build something. So yes, if you go 4-4-2 and you get the big boys back there, Maguire and Lindelof, and pack the box, and you hit the ball into space and you wait for Bruno to hit a free kick, Yeah, you'll win some games. Yeah, you'll probably get more points. But then what? So then what? You're
Not
13th
even
instead
sure.
of 17th or 16th? He's trying to build something bigger. And you know what? And I'm sure if Sean Dyche were there, he wouldn't just go and do this, would he? He'd try to do something more sophisticated? Or am I being too kind?
I don't know. But there's a reason why he doesn't get those jobs, because he's just Sean Dyche is not good enough, and the 4-4-2 basic rules is not good enough for big clubs. It's as simple as that. What about Sampdoria? Could they do with Sean Dyche? Because Sampdoria have been relegated to the 3rd division for the first time in their history, Gab. This is a pretty incredible story.
It's an incredible story, not just because it's a story of a fallen giant, blah, 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 because we've had those before. I mean, this is Sampdoria who won Serie A as a team of Vialli and Mancini and Lombardo and so on. This is Sampdoria who were relegated from Serie A, got a new owner. The new owner invested in excess of 100 million into the club. They were meant to come straight back up. This is one of the worst cases of money being thrown down the toilet to players who obviously didn't live up to it, to coaches who, including not necessarily bad coaches. I mean, Andrea Pirlo, who was a coach at the start of the season, was fired. He's not a bad coach, but clearly there was something, clearly didn't work out for him, right? And as a result, none of these players, from what we were told, have relegation clauses. When you go down to the 3rd division in Italy with Serie C, where it's regional, the total wage bill is maybe 1/8 what it is. So I have no idea how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember a team having spent so much money relative to the rest of the division that actually gets relegated. It's a terrible situation, and it shows you how tough it is to make the right choices. Lombardo, by the way, came back at the end of the season. He was the last coach that they had, but I don't know if he's going to want to stick around. Although, mind you, some people made the joke that they paid him so much money, maybe he can buy the club and run it himself and get them back up. The Bald Eagle. Lombardo, whose team, Crystal Palace, I'm told, is in the FA Cup final this weekend.
And I think we'll win it.
There you go. That was Jules' prediction. Now, we witnessed one of the most incredible collapses in a title race last night. Sad to say, it was my boy Francesco Farioli's Ajax who got crumbled. Jules, I asked you, are they going to get boshed?
Yeah, they
got boshed.
And we saw it coming. That's the worst, probably, because 3 weeks ago, they were 9 points clear and what looked like completely cruising. And now they are a point behind with just one game to go and a way lower goal difference as well compared to PSV. To be fair, as good as Ajax were doing for most of the season, PSV are a better team. They're a better team. They have better talent. They have better players. When they are on it and when they want it, they are almost unstoppable in that league. So for Ajax to be leading the race and getting close to the title was a great achievement in itself, considering where they were when Farioli took over in the summer. And maybe we should not be surprised in the end that PSV will be the champions. However, the way that Ajax have bottled it and the way they've crumbled is incredible. I mean, just in this game against Groningen on Wednesday night, they were 1-0 up. Then they went 2-1 up with 11 men against 10 because Groningen had a player sent off. And in the 99th minute, they conceded this ridiculous goal.
So the sending off was actually late. At 2-1 up, they... it was actually our boy Wout Weghorst who comes on, and you figure, all right, the old legend, the old lion roars, and you have Jordan Henderson shouting, "Come on, come on!" And then the sending off was minute 93, right? And you figure, just you're fine, right? And can we give a little credit to Jordan Henderson? I think he goads Valente into tackling him right by the touchline. Yeah. So he does really well. Red card, no argument there. You figure, okay, Groningen who have nothing to play for, by the way. They're like 11th in the league. And you figure, all right, it's done. And then last minute, a set piece.
Sutalo gave a stupid foul, stupid free kick away, man. Ridiculous.
It's been stupid. What about Remco Pasveer and his stupid...
all the defending
and his man bun.
Terrible. Yeah, terrible.
Timon Bloxa. Bloxa? Is that
Bloxa? Yeah, that's how I heard it yesterday.
All right. Take a bow, man. Marta is coming out of retirement at age, or international retirement, I should say. She still plays for the Orlando Pride. At age 39 to play for Brazil once again. Jules, I can't work out if this is a good sign or it's a bad sign.
But maybe so. There's the Copa America and there's the Women's Copa America in the summer, and that's why she's coming out of retirement for. And maybe it's a Casemiro type that we explained earlier when we talked about Brazil and Ancelotti in the men's side. I don't think she will start every game. I think
hope not.
Brazil could do probably with her being there in the squad, her experience, playing maybe some minutes. There might be games where she can play a bit longer if they're already qualified for. There's a lot of things that maybe she can contribute to. And I guess if Brazil call you back, you can't really. If you're Marta, you can't really say no, right? So let's see how it goes. But if it's for that kind of role, I'm all for it. If it's to start her because you see her as a savior,
I would hope
you
not.
don't have enough talent, which is not true. They have talent behind. So let's hope she's there to nurture all the young talents.
I wonder if she put a call in and she was like, "Ooh, Copa America is coming up. Do I want to sit here in the humidity in Orlando, or do I want to go and play in the Copa America one last time?
Well.
Let me see if you'll take me back." And then he says, "Oh, sure, Marta, we'll take you back." But the reason I say this is because you're building a team for the World Cup in 2027, right?
Yeah.
And Marta presumably
She
won't be a
won't be
part of
there.
it, but who knows? She'll only be 41, right?
Yeah, true. Gab, it turns out that Taiwo Awinori injury was a lot worse than he appeared at first at the weekend with Forest. He underwent emergency surgery and entered an induced coma. Does this put Mr. Marinakis' action this past weekend after that game against Leicester when he came on the pitch in a different light?
I told you, for me it does. And for me it also, I didn't have this massive problem where everybody lost their minds when he came onto the pitch. And he asked Nuno what was up. It looked like he was really, really hurt.
Yeah.
Right? It was like he's running into a truck there. The medical people come on and they give the thumbs up. And so Nuno makes a different substitution, doesn't take him off. Now, this is a really serious situation. Now, it's been Daily Mail reporting that he's out of the induced coma. Hopefully he'll be okay. But Jules, you're more medically adjacent than I am. How do you get this wrong from the people who are on the pitch?
I guess they asked, you could see the doctor or one of the medical staff asking Taiwo, like, how do you feel? And I think it looks like he's saying yes. And so they go the thumbs up as in like he's okay. He thinks he can play again. But you can only ask the player. Because you can't see the broken ribs, or you can't see his intestines issued. If you're a doctor, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit more difficult than it looked like, or maybe not. Maybe it was just like, as a doctor, you could see that it was clearly not good, and you could have said, no, he can't come back on. We can't take that risk anyway. Make another substitution and bring on and take him off, really. So I'm not sure, but this is well serious.
Mr. Marinakis saw it from the stands immediately. I don't know what this guy's pain threshold must be like, because he wasn't running around or anything, but the fact that he was standing and walking after this,
I know.
Goodness. No. Everton women's team will play Goodison Park next year as the men's team moves to Bramley Dock, to the new stadium. Is this a good idea, Jules? Even at a reduced capacity of 20, they're saying they're going to reduce the capacity 25,000 women specific. They only drew 1,256 a game this past season.
Yeah, and I don't think they played many times at Goodison though. So maybe
but I'm sure they didn't play in a stadium that held 1,256 and sold it out all the time.
But I think there's a big appeal for fans to go to a women's game when it's in the big stadium too. It was that, or it was going to get demolished, and I don't know what the plans was to build instead. I think there was a lot of fans who wanted the stadium to stay, so I think it's a good solution in a way, as long as it doesn't cost Everton money, because we know sometimes when you play in a big stadium and you don't fill it enough, then the cost of running that game that day with security, everything, stewards, costs you more in the end than the money you make from the game being there. So let's hope they don't lose money. I think it's great for the women's team, for sure, to have a stadium like that as your home. It's fantastic. But let's also hope that the fans understand and turn up, because you're right. If there's 1,000 people in a stadium of 20,000, it won't look great, and it won't feel great either from the players' point of view.
It's one of those things, I think it's one of the challenges for the women's game, right? Because I think wherever they play now, and I forgot the name of the place, the people who are showing up now are passionate fans.
Yeah.
They're packed in there. They're noisy and whatever. When they go to Goodison, even if even if the number of fans go up fivefold, which by the way, I don't think they will, it's still, 10,000 people. It's still half empty, right? So it'll change the feel.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult part. You can get more casuals in. How do you, at the same time, do you keep your hardcore happy and motivated and so on? I don't know. And Goodison, by the way, having been there both as a civilian, as a fan, both in the home end and the away end, and having been there as a journalist, I have to say it's a remarkable stadium.
Yeah.
It's so old school with the crappy sight lines and everything, and like all the obstructed views. It's a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
I hope they can remodel a little bit while keeping the old soul. And maybe the youth teams can play there
as well.
too.
Yeah, you're right. In the
find
youth
other
cup and
solutions.
things like, yeah, completely.
Dan Ashworth is heading back to the FA to work with technical director John McDermott and chief executive Mark Bullingham to find a successor for Thomas Tuchel. Jules, good move?
He was obviously there before, did a really good job with his mate Gareth Southgate. His expertise in structuring and organizing I think is very good. And I think for that, in this kind of process, it's probably a good thing.
Well, what's interesting, though, is the way the story was reported. I'm going to have to wait for the announcement to find out exactly, is McDermott has his old job. So McDermott's going to be responsible for that. So his sole job is to hire coaches, hire Tuchel's successor. It sounds like, and I'm guessing he's not getting paid a lot of money either, because he's got all that gardening leave money
true.
From when he went from Brighton to Newcastle to United, and then United let him go. So it sounds like all he's going to do is just travel around.
It's pretty cool.
Do a couple Zooms, watch football. No, but think about it. And then what if Tuchel says, "Yeah, I'm going to stay," and then what?
Well, I guess that's an even easier job. Like, oh yeah, cool.
It's even better. Well done, Dan.
The Women's Super League here in England is rebranding as WSL1 and WSL2 for the two top divisions, and they've abandoned the idea of not having relegation.
Yeah, it's a good thing they've abandoned the idea of not having relegation, because they're in danger of having fewer and fewer clubs than expected. Blackburn, you heard the story. A lot of their players were on minimum wage, essentially semi-professionals. Wolves, who won the tier down, would have been promoted into the second flight. They didn't apply for the license, the second flight. Ostensibly, it was because it looked like Wolves' men's team were going to be relegated, which obviously they're not, but that was pre-Vitor Pereira, and they said, well, we'll have less money, we can't spend on the women's team. They need to figure this out. I don't know what the answer is. They've got that woman in who's been really smart at getting, everybody says she's super smart. She's gotten a lot of sponsorship money in, or when it looked like it might not be so obvious. But you have to find a solution. The solution can't be having 3 or 4 super clubs right now, financed by the men's clubs, who are happy to take a lot, or what they consider a marketing expense on this, just going and beating up everybody else who simply cannot compete. I don't know how you fix it. I'm going to chuck it out there. I don't want Super League, because the men's pyramid has worked and has been there for 120 years. We've not had a women's pyramid for 120 years. Maybe the women's game needs a different model. Maybe there should be a European league for those teams like Barcelona, like Lyon, who are willing to throw enormous amount of resources at the women's game and compete the higher level. And maybe the rest of it should be more like a normal pyramid with teams that are sustainable. So you don't have these absurd situations of women being forced to play for minimum wage, which is frankly humiliating.